Welcome back to Brain Chemistry 101, and those of you that have your brain chemicals off kilter, listen up. This is part 2. Hopefully you saw part 1 dealing with brain chemistry. We're going to go a little more in depth at this time, but I just want to remind you, my name is Len Bransowitz. I'm one of the board certified clinical nutritionists, naturopathic physicians, and doctors of homeopathy that work in what's called the Ask the Pharmacist group. My partner Joe and I have been doing a syndicated radio show for 15 years now called the Ask the Pharmacist Show. You can find details of that show, and you can actually listen to it online at our website, www.lenandjoe.com. We'll give you at the end a toll-free number where you can reach us off air if there's something here that you hear, something that maybe tweaked your interest a bit that can help you in determining whether or not your brain chemistry is off. Let's talk about that just for a minute. What's it mean, brain chemistry off? That's what we talked about in the first part. We recognize that your brain chemicals, the 14 different forms that are used by our body, are coming from amino acids, which means they come from protein. In part 3 that we will do here shortly, we'll talk about how to correctly supplement your protein so that you make enough brain neurotransmitters. But let's put it to you this way. If you're having sleeping issues, if you're having anxiety issues, if you're having weepiness issues, if you're having basic personality changes, very well could be that some of your brain chemistry is off. Now, we talked in the first segment about neurons, and we talked about synapses and the different connections in our brain chemistry, how the brain sends out these brain signals. What we're going to talk about in this segment are some of the very specifics. We're going to talk about the 14 different ones. I'm going to give you some indications which ones do which symptom, so that perhaps you can identify some of these within your own system. So remember, we're talking about brain chemistry, we're talking about the neurotransmitters of control, and what we're going to talk about in a future video is how you can get them tested. That some of the newer laboratories now can do urine screenings for metabolites of these neurotransmitters and actually give you levels. Not to be used as a diagnostic tool, not to call into question any medication that you may be taking, but to allow us to determine where your levels are. And then there are some very natural ways to modulate those. So let's talk about some of these brain chemicals. As I said, you have 2 different types, not 3, 2. We have on one side what are called stimulatories. They turn things on. On the other side we have inhibitories. They turn things off. For somebody to say that they are balanced in brain chemistry, these levels need to stay balanced. Enough of the stimulatories, enough of the inhibitories. If this one starts to go up, this one needs to go up. How does the body determine that? By usage. If we're in stressful situations, if we're put into a situation that's out of the norm for us, it could be we use our brain chemicals up shorter. So I just want to go through some of these and give you some indications what happens when they are high or low. Let's first look at one of the most common stimulatory neurotransmitters called dopamine. Dopamine came into the public view with Michael J. Fox. The amount of individuals that are now developing Parkinson's disease, which is the inability to produce enough dopamine. So we know dopamine is a smooth muscle relaxant. But the balance of dopamine, remember, this is stimulatory, turns on. I'm just going to give you some indication. Dopamine responsible for the feelings of pleasure, satisfaction, muscle control, muscle function, and your entire GI system, your gastrointestinal system. So if you have irritable bowel syndrome, could be the dopamine's at play. If you're having reflux, could be dopamine's at play. When levels go high, you typically get poor intestinal functionality, developmental delays, and attention issues. When it goes low, remember, this is the pleasure hormone. When it goes low, the body typically responds with addictions and cravings. So our number 1 can be tested for stimulatory neurochemical brain chemical is dopamine. Number 2, epinephrine, commonly known as adrenaline. Now we know adrenaline if you watch any of those hospital shows on TV. You find somebody whose heart has stopped in a trauma unit, and you'll see one of the ER doctors run in and say, give us a vial of epi, and we inject it directly into the heart. Why? It is stimulatory. It makes the body move. It's adrenaline. We all know what adrenaline feels like. It's coming out of the adrenal glands, correct? So what's epinephrine? Important for motivation, energy, and mental focus. Boy, could we all use some of that. So when levels go high on adrenaline, what do we see? Sleep difficulties become a problem. Anxiousness becomes a problem. And the ability to pay attention becomes a problem. Now when it goes low, low adrenaline, fatigue, lack of focus, and we start gaining weight. No, it's not a weight loss pill, but the balance there keeps us where the weight needs to be. Next down the line, one stimulatory neurotransmitter called glutamate. Probably one of the most newly recognized, primarily because the food industry had found this one. Glutamate is a primary excitatory neurotransmitter in our brain. It's necessary for learning and memory. So what has the food industry done? We've done things like monosodium glutamate, MSG. We've added it to foods. Why? It stimulates the memory parts of our brain. It makes us feel good, but it makes us want to come back for more. Remember the Lay's potato chip commercial? Bet you can't eat one? Stimulates glutamate in the brain. I want more. So when glutamate levels go high, anxiousness, low mood, seizures. We're finding more and more children with these minor tics and seizures. Psychological, and even can drain your immune system, immunological symptoms. Now when glutamate goes low, we can have things like tiredness or poor brain activity. Next down the list, this is one called histamine. Now we've known of histamine for a long time. Histamine is a stimulatory neurotransmitter. We know it as the whole world of antihistamines. Histamines make you get congested. Histamines give you allergies, right? So histamine helps to control your sleep-wake cycle. In other words, histamine needs to go down at night so I can sleep. Histamine needs to go up to a proper level during the day so that I can stay awake. So it's one of those ones that fluctuates. Histamine, high levels, allergic responses, sleep difficulties. When it goes low during the day, I feel tired because I don't get the energy. So histamine's actually not a bad thing. Next down the list, norepinephrine or noradrenaline. It's important for mental focus, emotional stability, and your thyroid functionality. High levels, anxiousness, stress, hyperactivity, even high blood pressure. Low levels, lack of energy, lack of focus, lack of motivation, low mood. And lastly, phenylethylamine, PEA, another stimulatory neurotransmitter important for focus and concentration. It goes high, your mind starts racing, sleep difficulties and anxiousness. When it goes low, this is a big one with children, difficulty paying attention, difficulty thinking clearly, and low mood. There, we went over the excitatory side. On the next video, part 3, we will talk about the inhibitory side, the most commonly studied by medicine. Remember what we're talking about. Identification of neurotransmitters, getting them in balance so that your body can operate correctly. Again, our website is www.lenandjoe.com, and to reach us off air, 877-275-7743. But check us out on the web at lenandjoe.com. Thanks for listening.